Welcome to the Day After Podcast, an extension of the YouTube channel The Jestour, which is just like a basic grab bag full of bullshit that we had to talk a little bit more about. Mike's here,
Yes.
and
Hi, everybody.
he. This is a weird surprise bonus episode. We had the honor of watching slash rewatching the 1960 Ingmar Bergman Swedish black and white film The Virgin Spring.
Virgin Spring.
Thank you. It's
Yes.
I've been just calling it the Virgin Suicides. Now that I watched that, I feel so bad. Those aren't even close. Why don't you lead the discussion here, since this is your baby?
Okay, well, talking about Bergman is difficult for me because he's not just an ordinary favorite filmmaker to me. He is my absolute favorite filmmaker.
He's the one that made you think that, not made you think, but like you're like, this medium is amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I had seen some pretty good movies before, and then I think it was The Seventh Seal when I was right at the right age. I was like 17, 18 years old. Like, film can be
amazing.
Grand art.
Yes, that's amazing.
And not only he is the artist in cinema that I found where he's hit me deeper and than any other filmmaker has, more times than any other filmmaker has.
So what shocks you in a good way is his hit record. Like you should not be making this many good movies. Yes, you can make bad movies, but
okay. First off, the guy made some howlers. The Touch is a piece of shit.
I was making sure that was him, but we're not here to focus on the bad. We're here
but
to
from the years, say from sometime in the let's give it a roundish, from the mid 1950s to about 1975, he made I would say masterpiece after masterpiece after masterpiece with an occasional dud.
Okay.
And just I've seen most of that batch. Every one has been interesting except for The Touch.
I think that the one that shocked you the most, and me also to find out, was I did the math for you. This guy made something like 45 films in 43 years.
Yeah.
Which is fucking astonishing.
This was his work schedule. He was a theater director in the winter, and then when summer came in Sweden, summer's very short.
Yeah.
And he just used the summer months. He said he took the actors in his stage theater troupe and said, "Hey, you want to make a movie?" And so year after year, he just kept making movies in the summer on really low budget, and it just by 1960 with The Virgin Spring, he is already well renowned. He's and I think this won like Academy Award for like foreign film or something.
Oh, I will look. Continue talking though.
And the basic premise, this is an unusual one for Bergman in that he did not actually write the script.
Whoa.
There's several. He usually writes his own scripts. This one is a unique outlier on that one. It is set in medieval Sweden, and it is about a Swedish family, and their daughter is sent out to deliver candles to a church.
If I could just interrupt quick, I found it. This is the first time Bergman won the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film.
Yeah, okay.
And then he won it. He was a special mention at Cannes, and he won at the Golden Globes also for the same title.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. So, this daughter Karen is this family's sweetheart. It's the only child that has matured into adulthood. The rest presumably have died in infancy. She's their sweetheart. They've pampered her. They spoiled her, and she goes out to give some candles to a church that's a little far by. And on the journey, she is attacked and raped and killed by some herdsmen.
So I really want to point out. Go ahead.
Oh, and just one more thing. Then those same herdsmen, not knowing who she is, they go to the parents' house and they ask to sleep there at night. The parents agree. They later find out who those herdsmen are, and then they kill them.
So one side point before I get into a huge talking point is that I'm really glad I didn't read that, because the Wikipedia page spoils the twist halfway, right at the beginning. The fact that she was raped and killed, you
didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna do that thing where, just to be more engaged with your stuff, I Google it and I'm like, Virgin Spring is a rape and revenge thriller. What the fuck?
And this is the thing. Okay, for those of you who have heard about this but haven't seen it, yes, this is a This is like you could describe this as a rape and revenge film, and it is an influence on one of the more famous ones. Wes Craven saw this movie
And
and
in
said,
1971, I think, wrote Last House on the Left.
"Yeah, like so, Last on the House on the Left is like a cheap American horror remake
1972, excuse me.
of The Virgin Spring.
It's a remake of the. I thought it was just
it's inspired.
That's what freaks me out is that
it's basically the same plot.
The plot points are so close. It's so weird.
Just add a chainsaw and some.
Okay, so let's put this into perspective. I thought this was 10 million years later. Last on the House on the Left was 72, which is only 12 years after this came out. So it's not like we were taking an ancient movie.
Yeah. But for those of you who have seen Last House on the Left, one of the things you have to understand when you watch Virgin Spring is this movie is quiet. I didn't think this. I didn't think this could be done. This is a meditational revenge drama.
Oh my fucking god!
How is that possible?
I hate to say this to you, and I want this to come on. I want to spin this as a compliment. There are times where I was a little tired watching this, and there are like a couple minutes at a time where this man is standing thinking about what to do, or there's someone is standing meditating over the fact that somebody was just raped and murdered, and like I come back in a state of stasis. It's a very meditative energy.
Like okay, there are moments where for example, the father, played by Max von Sydow, fantastically played by Max, by the way, one of his great performances. He walks in on his daughter's murderers asleep, and instead of just cutting their throats, what the camera shows you is Max takes their bags and slowly, one by one, examines the articles in the bags. Just this slow pace of, yep, that was my daughter's cloak. Yep, that was my daughter's skirt. Yep, those are my daughter's shoes.
And I got that feeling, and I'm so glad they did it with this.
And then he just sits down and waits for them to wake up.
I think that part of it was like the cruelness and the coldness of a premeditated plan, but I think that it's deeper in that he's like there's a point where he stabs the wooden table with his knife, and I assume that was gonna be like, wake up fuckers, time to die. No, this is a meditative thing. It's as if to say, he looks over at the silent wife on the other end of the room, and he's like, what do you want to do? And she gives him a look like, that's between you and God.
So you have this wonderful theme of there's this subtext, or it's not so much sub, it's really blatant, of, on the one hand, paganism. There in this community, paganism is still a kind of a
taboo, or
it's still in the outskirts.
Okay.
But Christianity is the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, this relationship between Christianity and I guess there is this, one could say that if there's one thing that religious ethics has in common, it's hospitality towards the stranger. It's one of the foundations of religious ethics. It's when a stranger comes, when you come across a stranger, be nice to them.
One thing,
offer them food, offer them shelter.
And that comes up twice. Once before she's raped, when she's like, here, have some bread, here's some stuff. And another time when, like, can we please come in your gate? And he's talking, then and they say,
the daughter is hospitable to the goat herds when she meets them.
Yeah.
And then they betray her. And then these same goat herds, they come to the farm and they're welcomed in.
But the point I'm trying to make is that even though they've just raped and murdered this girl, they could have, it's shown at the end of that scene, they could have opened that gate at any time. They were asking permission from the head of the farm.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
And then when this family finds out you raped and murdered my daughter, they lock them in the guest house, into the place that welcomes guests with hospitality.
Oh,
I have no idea who you are, but here, have some food and have some shelter. You did what? Lock the gates, and then this intense, surprisingly silent revenge scene where the horrible mute gets stabbed through the collarbone into the heart.
Yeah, he has this,
And his older brother, or I'm guessing it's the older
the
brother,
other one, yeah,
is murdered on top of
the
the
fire.
fire. And just
what I was really excited about is when he misses and the thing is embedded in the door. They begin, and this is my wife said this too when I said, "Oh, how'd you guys like it?" Mike's geeking out. Also, I've never seen an old movie this violent, and she's like, "Whoa, well, Bergman's not really known for that." No fucking shit. When he loses his knife, I'm like, "Oh, I'm in for one of those really upsetting, clumsy fights, aren't I?"
oh yeah, those violence that is represented as clumsy and uncomfortable and painful, and please just get it over with, and oh god, he's laying on embers. And then when the final act of revenge, in just a rage, he goes up to the little boy and picks him up and throws him at a wall so hard that the boy dies and just lays there and never moves again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the character played by Max von Sydow just looks at his shaking hands, goes, what have I done?
That's a complex character, and I appreciate that. I'm running out of things to say. Do you want to geek out some more?
Just
your friend is a huge fan of Bergman when I can recognize Max on sight now. I'm like, hey, hi, buddy, how you doing?
There's my problem with my problem with Ingmar Bergman films is that when you ask me, is there more you can say? I could go on for hours.
Oh yeah, okay.
But because I can talk about the relationship that this movie has with the similar movies in the era, but I have to ask what you think about this ending. And it's a beautiful enigmatic ending where after the revenge is done, the Max von Sydow character goes just almost nonchalantly, now let's go find Karen. Almost like back to business kind of thing. And then this family trudges through the forest,
finds the body,
finds their little girl. Still dirt has been thrown on her by the boy, and you see these parents cradling their innocent young daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Max von Sydow character walks into the background, and you have this powerful prayer scene where we never get to see Max's expression. We just see his back, and you realize, oh, this is because this is not between us and him. This is an aside. This is God. Max and God.
He's like, okay, I'm going to build a church here.
I will build a church where my daughter's body is. I will never
forgive myself for what happened, but it's.
And then he and the wife, they go up to the daughter's dead body, and they cradle her. They cradle her head, and right where her head was, a spring bursts from the ground. And you were like, what?
like I'm glad they brought back the metaphor, because before they brought back the metaphor, I'm like, what is this movie about? Like, you don't want to say, oh, it's a movie about Christianity. That's fucking dumb and lame. But like the motifs of the spring and moving on past tragedy, that I found like a very nice through line.
Yeah,
you have to be careful then, because I like the idea of hospitality. That was a really good through line. And then the spring also, because that's like the first thing you learn in confirmation is like, water means rebirth. Like,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But there's there's a kind of ambiguity, because there are other sources of water. Remember that creepy old guy that Ingrid, or whatever her name is, she's having complications, and she's having sickness because of she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And she goes to this weird guy's house that's by the river, and his house has water streaming.
Oh yeah, he kind of made it on top of a stream.
Yeah.
He's like, you could stay here. No, I have to go do this thing that God told me to do.
And he kind of hints, and sometimes the cinematography is kind of ambiguous about what the fuck this guy is, because he sometimes appears out of nowhere. He basically said he was Odin.
Okay, I did get that idea.
And it's this weird enigma. I still don't know how to feel about the fact that, like, oh, there's a spring. Everything good now?
Oh, gross. But they...
But I find it beautiful and shocking, but I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah.
It's just it's what you make out of it. Get it?
Well,
you build a church.
Yeah, sure. Well, with your permission, that's been Ingmar Bergman's 1960 black and white rape revenge thriller film.
It is yes.
The Virgin
Bergman,
Spring.
the exploitation Bergman film.
Maybe we'll put this out on the same day as something else, just as like a little sidebar. But Mike, thank you for showing me your things.
Beautiful movie.
We have some highbrow, lowbrow coming up. Some stuff for Valentine's Day, but this has been Culture Corner. That was dark and sad. Fuck.
Thank you.